Puffed up, crispy choux pastry cheese puffs flavored with Gruyere and Parmesan. Make them ahead of time or bake them off moments after your party people arrive. Everyone loves this French cheese puffs recipe. They're called Gougères, and they are exceedingly delicious French cheese puffs that are a lot easier to make than you might think. There are only 5 key steps to make them, but make sure you watch to the very end of this video because we have a very special bonus round. Now, before I begin, this recipe's pro tip is all about setting everything up beforehand. So we want you to prep your ingredients, and we also want you to get your tools ready before you begin. To begin the recipe, let's start with the spices. Into a small bowl, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, a teaspoon of mustard powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, a pinch of cayenne pepper, and an 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Next to your stove or cooktop, have those spices handy, plus 1 cup of whole milk, 6 tablespoons of butter, and 1 cup of unbleached all-purpose flour. Also a great idea to have a wooden spoon or silicone spatula handy too. Now, on your work surface, 4 eggs at room temperature plus an additional egg. We're gonna crack it into a medium-sized bowl with 1 teaspoon of whole milk, mix them together, and then place them to the side with a pastry brush. Hello, egg wash. We'll be using you a little later in the recipe. Incredible! Incroyable! This recipe calls for not 1, but 2 delicious cheeses. So grab a box grater. We're gonna grate up some Gruyere, about 1 cup's worth, plus grab a hand grater to do some aged Parmesan. You'll need 3/4 of a cup total, but we're gonna divide it up. A 1/4 cup we're going to use to sprinkle onto each puff right before they bake, and then an additional 1/2 cup we'll be adding this directly to the pastry when we make it. Let's get our tools ready too. A stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment. Have some baking sheets lined with parchment paper. You're going to need an ice cream scoop. Last thing, oven rack in the top 3rd position. The oven is turned on to 400 degrees Fahrenheit to preheat. Now we are so ready to make this. We're gonna start with the first part of making the dough. We're making a pâte à choux, a classic choux pastry. Medium pan on stovetop, moderate high heat. We're gonna add the cup of milk plus the seasoning mix. Stir to dissolve the salt. We're then going to add the butter and heat until the butter melts and the milk is scalded. Turn the heat down to a moderate low heat and dump all of the flour into the pot at once. We're going to stir vigorously until the mixture pulls away from the side of the pan to form a ball of dough. This is going to take about 1 to 2 minutes. Next, at your workstation, we're going to transfer the dough to the bowl of the stand mixer. Let's give it 5 minutes to cool down a little bit. This is really important. Step 2 of this process, we're going to add eggs to that dough. But if the dough is too hot, the eggs will scramble. So just make sure it's cool to the touch before you continue. The dough has cooled down quite a bit. The mixer is now running at low speed. Let's add the 4 eggs, 1 at a time. Add an egg, make sure it fully blends into the dough, then add the next, go back and forth and continue. Once all the eggs have been added, then continue with step 3. Add the cup of Gruyere, then add the 1/2 cup of Parmesan. We're gonna blend to combine. This will work perfectly when you make these at home. We're gonna continue. Let's go on to step 4. Pop the bowl off the stand mixer, grab your lined baking sheet. Using the ice cream scoop, we're gonna scoop up a portion over to the baking sheet, dropping mounds, leaving about 1 inch space between each, and you have 12 larger sized cheese puffs. Last step before we bake. Brush the top of each mound with a bit of the egg wash, nice and gentle, and then we're going to do a sprinkle of the reserved 1/4 cup of Parmesan, sprinkle a little bit onto each. Transfer the tray to the oven. We're baking these glorious cheese puffs for 25 minutes. Do not open the oven to check. You gotta trust us on this perfect bake time. When they come out of the oven, they are puffed up. They're golden, the outside is crispy, they are really fabulous. These cheese puffs are perfect. Served next to a bowl of your favorite soup or stew. They're also really wonderful served next to a favorite main course. But I'm not done yet. Time for our bonus round. What if we make another batch? Exactly the same. We cook up the flour, milk, butter, spices, transfer to the bowl, then we add those eggs and cheese. But this time we're taking a pastry bag with a plain tip. We're gonna add the dough into the bag, and now we pipe off small little puffs, 12 per baking tray, 2 trays in total. You can dip your finger in cold water if you need to gently push down any dough tips, then add the egg wash, add a sprinkle of Parmesan. Transfer your mini cheese puffs to the oven and bake for 22 minutes. Look how perfectly puffed, crispy, cheesy these beauties turned out. Now, in case you're watching this thinking, sheesh, that guy sure does love making cheese puffs, you are right, but there's a reason why. Because you can place them into an airtight container, tuck them into the freezer, and then weeks later, just warm them up in a low oven for 5 to 10 minutes. Instant party snack, and friends are always like, did you just make cheese puffs, Nick? And I'm like, you betcha, 2 weeks ago. Hope you enjoy. We hope you enjoy making the recipe. Full recipe is up at weekendatthecottage.com. When you're visiting our website, please subscribe to it. Look for this video and tons more on our dedicated YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it as well. And then finally, when cheese puffs look this good or this good, take a picture of them and post them on your favorite socials using hashtag weekendatthecottage when you do, on Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook. Look at these gorgeous Gougère, light, fluffy cheese puffs. Oh, c'est bon. So good. Hope you enjoy. Party on.